Good evening, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to this episode of Real Talk with Karen Weaver. We're going to have a really good conversation this evening. I'm excited about you being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I mean, this is a familiar face to so many of us. But if you don't know who this person is, this lady sitting next to me as we celebrate Women's Month, Brenda Clack, who is a former teacher, former state rep, and former county commissioner. You've done a lot.
There are times that I think about it in the I won't say in my short period of living, but I've been blessed. I say that I have truly been blessed, coming from my background from Memphis, Tennessee, from public housing to Flint, Michigan. And there began the real life that I always dreamed of, because it wasn't available for me in Memphis, Tennessee.
So you wanted to come to Flint. That was on purpose.
Well, I didn't necessarily want to come to Flint. I tell people I wanted freedom.
Okay.
And freedom meant getting out of the South.
Okay.
At that time, it was too challenging for me. I had been blackballed from teaching school because I was too vocal. And my dad said, after I'd gotten several threatening calls, you need to go.
Okay.
And I knew I needed to go. They didn't know I wanted to go. I wanted freedom. And I didn't want them to think that I was purposely leaving and wanting to leave my family, but it was not for me.
And you know what? And it will good. You came.
Yes.
We're glad you came, because we needed you to
I had
be
never
vocal
heard
up
of
here.
Flint, Michigan.
Really?
I had never.
And you stayed, and now it's your home.
And I was going to stay here 2 years and leave.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
And you know, that's funny, because I didn't know that part of your story either.
No.
And you've done so much. And I want to talk about that, because we said this is Women's Month.
Yes.
And we need to lift women up, and we need to, you know, have conversations with women, you know, because we learn from each other.
Of course.
We support each other. And so when we think about this being Women's Month, I have a couple of questions for you. One is just, who were women in your life that you admired, that you looked up to? Who made you go to those next levels where you said, okay, I can do this?
That's interesting. You would ask that. I've never been asked that question, but I did have a favorite teacher in the second grade who saw something in me that I didn't know was in me. Second grade, who found out that I had skills that I didn't know I had. And one day took me all around the school because I understood and could do phonetics.
Okay.
And they just thought that was the most rare thing for a 7-year-old to be able to phonetically separate within a word and know the division within a word and be able to do it. And she took me all around the school telling other teachers, look at this, you won't believe this. That was the person that really influenced me. My mother, of course, was very driven. My mother came from a background. Her father was a physician who came from Africa. So she always talked about the importance of knowing my heritage and appreciating. Even though my grandfather, I never knew him. He died when I was an infant, literally. But I always had that proud feeling that this African came to the South as a physician. And oddly enough, Karen, you won't believe this, his area of expertise, and he was educated in England by an Englander. He was from Nigeria and was educated by an Englander. And he specialized in herbal medicines. Now, for some people at that time, my mother would say they called him a witch doctor.
Right.
That's what they called him. And people
and
who
now we're
knew
looking
me,
for them.
And look at
we're looking for.
The odd thing is everything is about herbal medicines.
Well, they knew.
Yes.
Because all of these other things hadn't been created.
And my mother said people would come from all over the country for his products. He was later swindled out of not only his money, but his property. by people who became very much aware of what he was doing and who he was. But that heritage, and she was so proud of him, and so was I. And then on the other side, on my dad's side, his dad went to Meharry to become a dentist. So why didn't I go into the medical field? But he never graduated. He came, and the family would discuss it, but never told why. And I would ask the question, why did he not become a dentist? Why did he not finish? My grandmother, who was another woman that was very influential in my life, she never would give me the story.
So it's just a mystery.
It is a mystery. And they're all gone, but they never would tell me.
There are, you know what, and you said they're all gone. There are some questions that I have now at this age. I said, I wonder why I didn't ask my mother. I said, because we don't have anybody to ask that piece of information.
Well, I asked,
and I didn't think about, well, this was something I just never even thought about until as an adult, something, because anyway.
Interesting.
Anyway.
Interesting.
But that's very interesting. Wow. And, and I want to go to something because you talked about being a teacher, being an educator, and that's what I that's what I remember.
32 years.
And a lot of people, some people just knew you once you got into the political world.
Correct.
But you were educating, and when you have teachers, you need to say thank you, because teachers play such an important role in our lives. And like you said, this teacher saw something in you, and when a teacher sees something in you and they take that kind of interest in you, that means something.
Important.
That is so, because that can be a game changer.
It tells you you're somebody,
right? And one of the things we also know is the important role Black teachers play in our success and us being successful. And so thank you.
When other people, and I've heard the stories of how many people were distracted and persuaded or encouraged. No, you don't need to study this. You don't need to go into that field. You need to do this. You need to go into the factory, or you need to just go be in a store and serve. And it's being a factory worker. What I realized, I couldn't believe, but being a factory worker in this city was so important. People were making more money than I was.
Yeah, it was. You know what? I just had that conversation a couple of weeks ago. Because we were talking about economic development and opportunity. I said, and one of the things that I had wanted to do was, I said, I wanted to restore economic dignity, because we know about economic opportunity and mobility in the city of Flint. We birthed General Motors. People forget we birthed General Motors. It was right here. And so those when we're talking about education, how all of those trades were in the schools. And so you left school and you walked into a job. You had a skill and making good money.
That's right. There were people who were educators who worked in the plants because of the money.
Yeah, you had a good living.
Buy brick homes.
That's right.
And in automobiles.
You had a car. You had great health care, and we had a great education system.
Yes.
I mean, so
it was wonderful.
It was a wonderful place.
Yes.
So yes, I first knew you as Miss Clack, the educator. That's and I was saying, you know what? It's funny because when you're young, you think somebody's older, and then when you look back and you say, you were only how old? I mean, you realize, because when I thought about it today before the interview, I said she had to be so young.
I'm 21 when I started. That was young.
And so, that is. I mean, and it is young, but it's just funny that you think, but you grow up and then you learn, okay, you were.
I was blessed. I was very fortunate to have been able to go into the occupation at that age. But they also, it was at the time, we're talking about the early civil rights movement. They were trying to integrate the schools. They were trying to improve the educational system. So they were getting many of us who were coming from the South who had degrees. I had a specialty in Black history. Black studies. And so I had something additional to offer. Yet I was put in an elementary school,
and you said you were a secondary.
I was a secondary educated person, but I was shoved into elementary school because I was told I was articulate and I was educated. So let's start with these young people. And that was not fair because I was not.
It wasn't fair to
educated,
you, right? Fair to you
teach
or them, right?
The little kids,
right?
I was
because
ready.
That's why you have elementary
kids.
education,
That's
secondary. Right. I mean, there's a reason.
There's a reason
that you have those things, and that's where your expertise is. So we're not going to let you use that.
No, it was interesting. So I refused to. So I refused to go back to.
Okay.
I wanted a job, but I took a chance. And I refused to go back to elementary because I really thought I was crippling kids, that I could do better.
Yeah.
I needed to be, as I used to call my kids, thinkers. And many students came through me when I went to Northwestern High School. I can remember one particular judge, many who went into business, many who became educators because of me. It was a blessing.
And it's funny because you hear those stories later on too.
Yes.
They run into it and they say, you really, helped me with this or saw me to see this in myself. And you don't even know the impact that you've made
until later. But teaching affords you an opportunity to put your hands on more people and within 1 year, you have a class of 30 or 35 and you have 5 classes. That's a lot of people.
And that's a lot of young people to help shape and mold and impact and role model for.
Yes.
So I wanted to talk about that because some people don't recognize
that. I love teaching.
Well, that's because you have a helping heart. And so it leads me to, because a lot of you do know her from her political career. And actually, I want to talk about that, but I'm trying to figure out, I might start with this picture, but you and your husband got into politics. And I asked you to bring some things and you brought this picture. Yes. And I really like this picture and I want people to see this picture. So tell us about this.
That picture was when I was sworn in as state representative representing the Flint district. And on that picture are my children. As you can see, my friend, I have 2 friends on that picture. Also, I have now current county commissioner, Del Rico Lloyd, who was one of my students at the last school that I taught at.
What was the last? Oh, you were at Northwestern at the end?
At that time I was at the Flint Schools of Choice.
Okay.
And he was one of my students.
See, you moved around.
He just hung on to me. And he wanted to be a part of my swearing in. That was something that I longed to do.
Everybody's just smiling. That's so nice.
I longed to do, but I said, and my husband was involved in politics.
Yes.
Our kids could not have 2 people involved. They just couldn't. They need to be of age to take care of one of them. Yes, and they need to be able to take care of themselves. So I waited until the time was right.
And we do that, don't we?
We have
because, and I understand because I remember I would not have run if my kids were, I wanted to be there. Age. I wanted to be able to go up there for programs.
That's right.
I want to go on field trips. I want to
when
be
you
able
knew your
to,
husband couldn't go.
I wanted to be able to do all of those things.
Of course.
And that was important.
That was important to me.
That was very important to me. So I hear what you're saying, but so you started there, but then, and we're going to talk about some of this too, because here's another picture that I want people to see, because you went from city council, city council, state rep.
Yes.
Floyd was on city council. See, I mean, they came levels. From, see, that's what I'm saying. This, I mean, it's something how.
Isn't it interesting?
Yeah. So this picture, that's your county commissioner.
Yes.
So how long were you county commissioner?
Let me tell you why and how.
Yeah, please.
Because
that's a nice picture.
When I served as state rep, it was term limits. Term limits was 6 years. Right. And so when my 6 years was up, I said, wait a minute, I have affected a lot of people.
Okay.
I have helped a lot of people in this position. I'm not ready to go.
Right.
So I'm going to try for the next level.
Okay.
In my community, and that was to run for county commissioner. Because 6 years I'd gotten the bug. And I decided to run for county commissioner, and I was very fortunate to have won.
So how long? Okay, so state rep had the term limits there. So they've expanded those term limits now.
Yes,
what do you think?
Have. Do I agree with
it?
I think it's great because in 6 years, I did not do everything that I aspired to do. I went in Lansing with one goal particular, and I was so glad I had something to look forward to. My last year as a teacher, I had a student who was one of my very precious students, who was very neatly dressed every day, was very polite, and he studied so hard. This particular, but I had begun to notice something about him that was off for about a couple of weeks. This particular morning, he came to school and he said, Mrs. Clack, I need to talk to you at the end of the day. And I said, what's wrong with you? He said, I really do need to talk to you. I'll come to your room at the end of the day. And I said, fine. He was one of my favorite kids. And so he did come, and he had a suitcase in his hand. I said, where are you going? He said, I didn't want to tell you. He said, but I can no longer go back to the home that I was living in. I said, I don't understand what you're telling me. He said, you don't know, I'm a foster child. And when I left this morning, my foster mother said, take your clothes and your possessions with you. The state hasn't paid for you. You're no longer a member of this home. That hurt me so bad. I was not aware of foster care and just how detailed it was. And I said, I'll get you a place to stay. And I got on the phone and I was able to get him housing from that. At that point, I couldn't bring him into my home at that point because I didn't have room for him. But I told him, I'm going to get you a place to stay. And I got him a place to stay that night. I was also running. I knew I was a candidate state rep. I said, I'm going to work for foster care kids. They don't deserve this. Why would you put a young person out because the state hasn't paid for them? Why would you put them on the street?
Right.
And that was my first bill. That was my first bill that I'm so very proud of because I was able to extend. It had to be a commitment from a foster care child. They could extend their care. The state would pay for it if they enrolled in college. So they had to enroll in college, continue their education, but they had a place to lay their heads.
Because and that was because I was at my Children's Health Center over behavioral services, so we worked a lot with kids in foster care, and then I went to Ennis, which is foster care. Of course. And I remember it was almost like, and then at 18, everything was cut. Yes. And I thought, now you know where your kid is at 18.
Yes.
You don't put it right. Okay, see ya. I've been waiting to put you out. And you know where, I know where I was as an 18-year-old. And I hated that.
Yes.
I hated it. So
I did something about it.
Yeah. And that's why you needed to come up here, because you need to be vocal up here and do these things.
I did something about
a place where you could be vocal.
That young man, I went to Lansing with the idea. I got right on it. This is not fair.
And see, so this is me, because that's why it's so important to have somebody in Lansing that is going to speak up about things. Sometimes people don't realize, I don't know what they're doing in Lansing, because you don't see them like you see, if you're a city.
But if someone is doing something.
And that's what I was going to say,
how many people it affects.
And that's why I said, we need to educate people about what is that role, because you need somebody in Lansing to speak up.
Speak out.
Right. And say, here's what's going on, and here's what I'm fighting for in my home. You know what? And sometimes it's, even if you don't get it, people at home know you're fighting for us.
They know that.
And that's what we want to have, are people that will do those kinds of things. That's what we need. And that's why, we always talk about local and state politics.
And many people don't know, Mayor, that it was my bill that banned smoking in the state of Michigan. I'm not sure if you know that.
No, I didn't. See, that's why we have to have these conversations.
Yes, I sponsored the smoking ban bill to eliminate smoking in public places. People can go into a restaurant, now and eat dinner without smoke being blown over their head.
Isn't that funny? You remember when I said, and I tell my kids this because, I mean, I remember when you could be in the hospital and smoke.
Yes.
People smoked in the hospital.
You certainly could. One of my favorite steak places. I could hardly eat my steak for people blowing smoke. That was my bill in the state of Michigan.
Well, thank you. Because that really speaks to public health.
Oh, yes.
That speaks to public health.
That's health, yes.
Exactly.
And there was supposed to be a survey done within 10 years to see the improvement. I've not received those results, being honest, but I do know, I've heard people who have periodically said there was a difference. There was a change. Oh, yeah. People now could breathe.
I used to be mad. I'd go on the airplane and I want to get in the no smoking section, and they put you at the end. And they're right behind you smoking. Not that now we know it didn't even matter, but you know, it was
the casinos.
Right.
Oh, I got a lot of flack from casinos. Oh, did they hate me? They invited me. And I remember one instance where one casino owner said, we now have a system where it blows, can eliminate smoke. I said, smoke is a vapor. It's a vapor. You don't eliminate a vapor. And I used to tell Floyd, I used to tell my husband, honey, if I was the kind of person who took money for bribes, we would be rich, because money was offered to me.
I'm going to show another picture when you said Floyd. I want people to see. I mean, because you were such a strong political family in this community.
Money was offered to me. If I would retrieve that bill and not introduce, don't push that bill any further.
They did offer money to you.
Oh my God.
You were messing them up.
Used to see that on TV. Yeah. Well, it's possible. And I said, honey, but he would tell me when I first went to Lance, he said, don't be tempted by anything that's monetary. Stand your ground. I know who you are.
We need some stand your ground kind of people.
Yeah.
And I mean,
it's about the people. It's not about you.
Right.
I firmly believe that. Our politicians, many politicians today don't understand that. It's a title.
They're there for the wrong title. Thing. Right.
Not for what you can do for the people.
Because you're supposed to be a public servant.
I won't get on that.
Well, okay. So because here I had this question, because I was going to ask you, when you see where we are today, I know how I feel. So we'll start at the local state level, where when you see where we are. I mean, because I'm hurt, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm disappointed. And you spent time in political office longer than me. So how do you feel?
Well, let me just tell you, as I have told many people, being a female in politics,
that's what I want to,
is not easy.
No.
And when you get elected to higher positions, it's even more difficult. I remember when I defended someone against you because they didn't want you to become mayor of this city. And we kind of had it out. I said, how dare you? How dare you? How dare you try to denigrate this Black woman?
Right. And
people don't realize that it's, if you're right, you can stand your ground.
Yeah.
But now I am so disappointed, because we're supposed to be able to influence another generation of honest people. We are so different from politics in this city from what we were. I won't say 20 years ago, almost 10 years ago.
Right, I was going to say, you can just say 10 years
10
ago.
years ago.
Right.
People are about titles. People have used profanity against people.
Yeah.
People have lied on people.
Exactly.
And people have not actually moved in a direction to help the city, help those who need help, but to help themselves.
To help themselves.
And this I despise. My husband was not like that. I'm not like that.
And you know, what I also have seen is, I mean, because I'll tell you one thing I did feel like when I was in office, we had respect. We were getting respect from other places. And when you go around now, people are talking about us.
Oh goodness, yes. They're
like, you all are a laughing stock. And who suffers the most are the people
Other
that
people.
aren't getting what they deserve to get,
because the people are concentrating on themselves.
And and this is the first time, we're talking about what's going on locally, but a lot of times people can't tie Washington to their day-to-day life. How does it impact? But we have a president in office where our day-to-day lives are now being impacted by decisions that are being made. I mean,
outside.
when you because in Lansing, you're in the middle.
Yes.
So between the federal government and the local city government. And so when you see what's going on at that level,
it is so depressing sometimes. And even though I was in Lansing, we had constant communication with Washington because we had opportunities
with Michelle Obama.
We had opportunities to go to DC because I served with the national Black legislators and received a recognition from the national Black legislators. And so, but we had that constant clean connection. It was that clean and honest connection. I worry about individuals here in our city that are depending on some people to stand up for them and to do for them, and don't realize that these people, there are a lot of suffering people in our community, and there are people who are touting that they did this and that, but it's not for the people.
No.
It's for themselves. And that hurts. The honesty is gone. My husband never dealt with that.
It is.
Then I came along much later. I didn't deal with that. But it's how you present yourself to the people. And they know, people who are honest and want the best, they know. And all you got to do is listen sometime and look.
You heard that.
That's true. Just
so and so I want to talk about something else, because a lot of times people see you when you're in the office, and we'll talk about that too. But there are challenges and struggles getting there, especially as a female and as a Black female. And then even when you get there, we're so disrespected.
Yes, we are.
We're so disrespected.
You at least made the mayor position. As you know, I ran for mayor.
And I had to thank you for that, because when you look at politics, we're not ready for women. We're not ready for women in leadership role.
We are
not. And had you not done that, I might not have been there.
That was a challenge.
So, yeah.
But I remember on the corner of Holmes and Oxley Drive, there was a principal who came by. We were knocking on doors. I'm saying, yes, he was a principal. And I was giving out brochures along with some people who were walking with me. And he said, Miss Clack, I just know, you really are a nice person. Your family is nice, but we ain't ready for no female mayor.
Right.
I said, how dare you? No, we don't need a female mayor. We don't need a female mayor. I said, give me my brochure back.
Right. And you know what? I even had women say that to me. Well, that should be a man.
Oh,
and
that's interesting, isn't it?
It is interesting. Not a lot of them, but there are those women that see, only the man in certain job roles and responsibilities.
As mayor, I did lose.
Yeah,
they wanted a mayor,
but you started putting it on the mind.
It was a challenge,
because if you had, you put it on people's minds that this woman ran.
She's doing it
exactly.
Yeah.
And so, because I remember, because we were at church together, so I watched you.
Did you?
Well, yeah.
Okay. You were young.
But at this point, I wasn't. Because I remember you were saying, "This is what I'm going to do." I said, "Ooh, wee." I remember that, and I said, "Wow, she's going to run for." Never thinking that I would, but I would sit back and watch, and that was.
But I told that person, "You have no right. She has a right. She's educated. She's intelligent. How dare you?"
But they want us to be in a certain place.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And so, when you look at what happened with Kamala Harris, and I was talking with somebody yesterday, and he was, he said, "You know what? Let's just be clear. They weren't ready for a Black female."
They were not.
I said, heck, they weren't ready for a white one when Hillary ran.
That's right. Look what happened with Hillary.
Exactly.
That was a fight.
It just goes to speak
women
to
have
women
to really fight.
We have to fight.
We have to fight. Yes.
And we still are. We still are. I mean, we've moved, but we still have to fight. And so again, it's good you came up here with your vocal self.
I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher.
We
first.
need it.
What you say?
That's all right. That's what
I'm
you're doing in
teacher.
politics too.
Oh,
I mean,
goodness,
I don't know which one of these to show. Look, okay, I'm gonna show Montel Williams next.
Okay.
What was going on here?
At that point, Montel Williams was doing a campaign to decrease the cost of prescription drugs.
Okay, you all remember Montel Williams?
Oh, yeah. He came to Lansing first, where I hosted him at a forum. And then he told me, I'm coming to Flint. And he had a bus. He had this huge prescription bus. And he came on Beecher Road to that. It actually was a cancer center on Beecher Road.
I know where you're talking. Yes.
And he parked his bus there, and he talked and had an audience. But that was a thrill.
Okay.
But the thing about it, you would not believe. Prior to that, I was in Arizona at a conference the few times that I would go with Floyd places, and I became ill. I had to be hospitalized in Arizona. And I told them I had to get out of the hospital because I had a conference with Montel Williams this coming Tuesday. And they looked at me like I was crazy.
I'm going to talk to Montel.
You have, and I remember that vividly. They did not believe who I was. They said, well, who are you? And I had to tell them,
I'm Brenda Clack, and I got a day in the city of Flint.
And it was Floyd's conference, but I said, I'm a Michigan State representative.
Isn't that something?
And I have a conference. And they went and looked it up and came back and, yes, you were right. You are a state rep. And we will get you out of here. Okay. I'm telling you, I had to say, I have to get out of here.
Right.
I have this conference.
So I got work to do.
I got work to do.
She's laying in the hospital bed. I got work to do.
I can't remember what the problem was, but I got it in Arizona. So interesting.
Wow.
Again, not believing this female.
Well, look. And it's funny because I remember when I got in office, you remember Steve was my chief of staff, Steve Branch. And so when we would go to different things, if people didn't know me, they'd walk up to him as the mayor. And it's like,
oh, I believe
it's me.
I believe that.
I mean, they just make those assumptions.
Challenges as a female.
Yeah, there are so many challenges. I mean, they critique how you dress. Oh, I remember somebody fussing at me about, they said, what you said was, you were really good, but why'd you have on tennis shoes? I just had foot surgery. That was the first shoe I could put on. I was so happy to be able to put a tennis shoe on. I said, but they don't say those things to males. No. You know, they wear suits with tennis shoes all the time.
They wouldn't say that.
But it was, but you had tennis shoes on.
What many Flint people told me, and at that time, was, you make us so proud. You represent us so well. We just want you to know. So it's not a week past that someone doesn't come up to me and say, right, you don't know who I am, but I know you. But you represent it. You make us feel good. They can't say that.
Right. They can't say that now about a lot of people. Let's just keep it real.
It's
and it's sad.
It is sad.
It's sad. And it's interesting because when you go out, people know who you are. And so, and it's just different.
It's different.
It's different because
and it should not be. Right. Because we have to influence another generation.
Right. And so when you see what's going on, I'm gonna go back to that. When you see what's going on, and you're talking about influencing another generation, that hurts as well, because that's what we're supposed to do. And when you see all of the foolishness going on, it's like, well, what does that show young people about us? And also, how does that make anybody say, I want to run? I mean, a lot of times it's really hard to get good, honest people to run, because you have to deal with so much nonsense and negative. It's a toxicity here.
I said in a meeting, everybody cannot run for an office. Just because you think it's exciting, you need to prepare. If you're going to represent a group of people,
your family,
you need to be knowledgeable to some degree.
Yes.
You need to be in the position to serve to some degree. You don't have to be, a genius, but be in a position to know.
Right.
And this is just Brenda Clack speaking. I think people need to have some semblance of civil government to understand what's going on. I really do.
Yeah.
Just the basics. Even knowing the branches of government,
because
many
people don't understand.
Know.
Okay, well, this is what council does.
Yes.
You know, I remember telling somebody, council has to do that. I can't do that.
Yes.
You know, that's what they do.
And as the people call me now, what is going? Why can't the people in DC do something? I said, Congress has to make those decisions.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know, then you do question. I said, but Congress has to make those decisions, you know. And so, I don't know it all.
But understanding how government works, and that's why I said we need to be having these kinds of conversations all the time. A lot of times we wait and educate people around election time.
Yeah.
And we need to be having it because once you understand things better, you can do things better.
And you know what I don't like here?
What's that?
People who think they can curse people out and be loud and obnoxious and think that's impressing people.
Right.
That's not right.
Impressing us the wrong way.
That is just not right.
But I don't know where decency and civility have gone.
That's not good government.
Yeah.
Being rude to people, to the citizens of the community.
There you go. Because you can't go to council chamber.
Ooh, you're afraid to go.
You're afraid to go. You're scared you'll be arrested. You will get put out.
That is not right for citizens.
That's the place for the people.
Yes.
And so, I have something else I want to show. I love this picture. That is such a nice picture of you and your husband, Floyd.
And actually, that was presented to us by the mayor.
Well, that's good. He did something right. Because he sure can't get the pipes finished. He sure can't help people with ARPA dollars.
I like that.
Don't get me
started.
We were
recognized
I love that
Black
picture.
History Month. Thank you.
I love that picture.
And this being Women History Month, you're doing the right thing. We need to be aware of that. Number one, that women are capable.
Right.
That women are doing. That women have the expertise to make this community a good community.
Okay.
Those who are prepared to do so and who are not there just for a title. There is a difference.
There is a difference. And
I appreciate your asking.
Well, I want to ask you, because I know we're almost out of time, but I want to ask you another question. And this is, what's something that people just would be surprised to know about you? So I'll tell you, like somebody asked me that question and I said, well, I guess people would be surprised to know that I played the harp. And people say, or when I'm on Zoom, sometimes it's in the background. I said, what is that in your background that looks like a harp? I said, a harp.
Isn't that wonderful? Though?
And so that was something that a lot of people just don't know. What's something about you that people just don't know? Some of it could be that you were an educator. That's one of them that some people may not know.
That. That for a period of my time, and since you're in the arts, that I was a pianist.
See, I didn't know that. We could have done duets together.
Well, I don't know. It's been a while.
Look, for me too.
Just I was a pianist, and that I have sponsored several young people to college their first year. I paid for that. They may be surprised because some people wouldn't do that, but if I saw something in a person just to get their foot in the door, it was worth it to me.
That's like if I can help somebody.
And I'm from a family of 9 children.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
Yes.
And where do you fall in there?
First.
Oh, wow.
I'm the first.
Really?
I'm the oldest.
Okay.
Yes, I am the oldest. A couple are deceased, but
see, I didn't. Okay,
you didn't know that.
And see, so you just never know. What's your favorite Girl Scout cookie?
Thin Mint. Today is Girl Scout. I'm so glad you brought that up. Let me mention this.
Let's talk about the Girl Scouts.
Did you see GMA this morning?
No.
I want to mention today is National Girl Scout Cookie Day. Flint on Good Morning America, which I always look at. They honored a young lady from Flint, Michigan.
Now, how did I not? I have to put that up because I'm on the board for Girl Scouts of Southeast Michigan.
Her name is Ellen Tyler.
Okay.
And they had her publicized.
Okay, Ellen Tyler.
Publicized for things that projects.
Okay.
I was a Girl Scout.
I was
a brownie.
I was a brownie.
And then a Girl Scout. It was difficult in the South to become a Girl Scout. But I was so happy. I had to look at the TV twice.
See, I'm going to go look at that.
Flint, Michigan. Her name is, I remember that, Ellen Tyler, and she talked about the projects that she had, because you have to get badges.
Oh, yes, you do.
But I was just surprised that Flint, Michigan was recognized.
That's good. That's good
Ellen
to know.
Tyler.
So yeah, because
congratulations, Ellen.
That's right. And we're going to be doing more with Girl Scouts here in this area. So I'm excited
some new
about
cookies
that.
Too.
Yes, new cookies, and we're going to have some new troops. So I'm excited.
Good. Oh, that's
I'm
wonderful.
excited about that. So isn't that? I'm glad I asked that question.
I am glad.
See?
I am.
You just
so
don't
glad
know.
You did. I was so proud of that young lady. Yes.
And we're going to put her. We're going
to
lift her name up, because people need to go back and
where you
and
find
see
cookies
that.
these days.
Well, you know, I have nieces that sell cookies.
Okay.
So that's where I got them. But I hear they're out there selling them, you know, in different places now, at stores and that kind of thing.
Good,
but
good.
Look, my nieces,
they work it.
Oh man.
Good.
And all of us buy them. I buy some,
do.
Adrian buys some, Alana buys some, Helen buys some. It's like everybody has to get these Girl Scout cookies, and then we eat them all up.
We knocked on doors in those days. Those were safe days. Nobody would snatch you in.
Right. That's right.
And could do it by yourself.
So is there anything that I haven't asked you? Anything you want to say to the people? I want to say thank you. I'm so glad you came on and we had this conversation. This was so interesting, but it's inspirational. And these, like I said, these are the things that we need to be doing. And so it's an opportunity to thank you for your service as an educator.
Thank you.
For your service in political office. And it's funny because you said people still call you. So that speaks to what you did, or they wouldn't call you.
Yes. And I wish, and if this is not too personal, I would love for people to lift up prayers for my husband.
No, that's not too personal.
Who served this community for many years. For
many years. Also in education.
He started in education.
Yeah.
We met in education, and we've been married for 51 years.
See, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That is something. You know, you make me think. I did my dissertation at Michigan State on long-term marriages.
Did you?
Because we had a big, huge divorce project going on. I said, well, if half of them get divorced, the other half stay married. Let's see what they're doing right.
What they're doing, yeah.
What they're doing right. And so that's something. That's amazing when you've been with your partner more of your life than.
That's right. That's right.
So. Yeah,
Thank you.
We might need to have a conversation on that. People that have stayed and, you know, have been successful at marriage. I think that would be.
Thank you for inviting me. I've enjoyed this.
Me too.
You covered a lot.
So so you'll come back.
I will, if I can.
Did you all see that look on her face? But I do. Thank you. And thank you all for tuning in. I want you to like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you next time on Real Talk with Karen Weaver. Have a good one.